Hello and welcome to another episode of Susfaction.
Today is going to be an Acela-centric episode, and I'm Kyle.
And I'm Isella,
And
and
we're
we're your
your
hosts. Well, we promised you cryptids for Christmas. So
we're going to talk about Krampus.
we're going to talk about Krampus today. So first, just for those who might not know what a cryptid is, because this is a history podcast.
Yeah.
Not everyone knows what a cryptid is. A cryptid is a creature considered it's considered a cryptid because its existence is claimed but not proven by mainstream science. Cryptids often originate from local folklore or eyewitness accounts, and their existence remains unconfirmed by scientific evidence. Examples include Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, and the Jersey Devil. Once a cryptid is definitely discovered and verified, it stops being a cryptid and becomes a recognized species. So that's what a cryptid is. So that's what we're going to be covering for this month. And first, I want to put you in, I don't know, I guess, what do you want to call it? Like an ASMR type dream.
Oh, yeah, like set this, like imagery.
Yeah.
Set the scene.
So if you're driving, listen to this later. But if you're not driving, close your eyes. Take a couple deep breaths, steady your breathing. As the sun sets on December 5th, there's a strange, tense excitement hanging over the old town. The streets are packed, especially for a bitterly cold night, and filled with nervous laughter. As you walk through the old market square, a group of teenagers runs past, giggling, jittery, grabbing each other from behind to give each other a scare. They're going the same way you are, and you follow them down onto the main thoroughfare of the old town. There are fairy lights strung between the buildings and filling shop windows, and the route is lined with people on each side, sometimes 2 rows deep. While there are plenty of adults and teenagers, there's a large number of families with children in attendance as well. You find your own space among them and wait. You hear the dragging of chains and the sound of bells approaching, growing louder. Slowly, yet all at once, a great horde of horned Krampuses appears, each one equipped with a switch. They descend on a boy, and 2 grab his arms while a 3rd whips him. Then you turn to see that there is a large, hairy creature with a terrifying mask and gigantic horns behind you. You run and accidentally corner yourself. The creature playfully swats at your leg and runs off. Families have their children with them, and although the Krampuses are happy to scare the adults, their focus is on the children because Krampus is, after all, the punisher of misbehaving children. They grab at people, jump at them to startle them, and they do whip them with switches. Everyone is running and laughing and trying to escape the Krampuses.
I love that.
Did I put you there?
Yes, you did.
So,
very well done.
What I described is the celebration known as Krampusnacht. And though many of us will not get to experience that unless we travel that time of year.
Yeah.
Specifically looking for it, at least we can imagine what it would be like. Sounds fun, but also terrifying.
Right. No, it sounds like a lot of fun.
So he is the antithesis of Santa, who rather than giving gifts to the good, spends his Christmas time switching, beating, and kidnapping the bad. If you're used to a twinkly-eyed Santa being kindly at little boys and girls at this time of year, perhaps the only thing more disturbing than having huge monsters attack you is watching them pick off the children in the crowd. Santa's precursor is part of the fun. At the end of the parade, there is a figure that resembles St. Nicholas. He appears to have control of the creatures, but just barely. St. Nicholas' feast day is December 6th, so it's fitting he should end the parade. All right, so where does Krampus come from? This is actually longer than I thought. Krampus goes back way back.
Really?
Yes. Originating from pre Germanic pagan traditions. He is depicted with hooves, horns, and a long forked tongue. His legend involves beating disobedient children with birch branches and sometimes kidnapping them in a sack or basket to carry away to the underworld.
That's not creepy at all.
Krampus acts as the bad cop to St. Nicholas's good cop. On December 5th, or Krampusnacht, he appears to punish children who have behaved badly. His methods vary from beating children with birch twigs to chaining them and dragging them to the underworld, if you were particularly bad. Now, the tradition of Krampus is still celebrated today through events called Krampus runs, particularly in Germany, Austria, and other alpine regions, where young men dress up in costumes and parade through the streets, which is what I had described earlier. Before we take too in depth of a look at Krampus, first we need to look at the man who walks with them, St. Nicholas. Although the Dutch call him Sinterklaas, which is where we get the name Santa Claus.
Yeah.
St. Nicholas has very little to do with our image of Santa. St. Nicholas was the bishop of Myra and lived in the 4th century in what is now southern Turkey. 4th century. That's how far back this goes.
Yeah.
In the 9th century, his legend evolved into saying he performed 3 miracles where he saved the lives of 3 men who had been wrongly sentenced to death. So that story was 3 men were staying at an inn, and the innkeeper murdered them. And apparently St. Nicholas at the time, I don't think he had achieved sainthood by, during his lifetime.
Yeah.
He brought the men back to life from the pile of flesh and bones.
Oh wow.
That's how the legend goes. Later the legend changed. It wasn't a shop, it wasn't an innkeeper anymore. It was a butcher. Same
butcher.
story, but a butcher.
Oh.
So that was the first of the 3 miracles. Another, he calmed a storm. There's not much about that one. And then the final miracle was to have the biggest influence over his further myth, and that is that supposedly Nicholas heard of a man who was so impoverished that he was considering selling his 3 young daughters into prostitution. Deciding to save the girls, but unwilling to reveal his generosity, Nicholas tossed 3 bags of gold into their house over the course of 3 nights, each bag representing a dowry for one of the girls.
Didn't it enter their stockings like somehow, or like their stockings were like hung on the mantelpiece, and like that's where that comes from?
I didn't find that. I remember hearing that in school. We were
Okay.
both raised Catholic.
Yeah.
So we heard lots of saint stories growing up. And I do remember hearing that they had landed in their stockings. The 3 dowries had landed in the stockings of the girls. There's a little more here about that, or referencing stockings. Dowry for the story of secret nighttime gift giving captured the popular imagination and was frequently represented in art across Europe, with the saint normally depicted in a hood so as to further mask his identity. In remembrance of St. Nicholas' charity, presents were often given to family, friends, and the poor on the 6th of December, a date that has been set as St. Nicholas Day back in the 4th century and had quickly become associated with the opening of the Christmas season. By the 16th century, gift giving on Nicholas's Day was so common that Martin Luther in an effort to diminish the importance of saints' days, was insisting that everyone should only be giving presents on Christmas Day.
Huh.
I didn't know that. So,
I didn't either.
because this goes into some church history, but Lutheranism comes from Martin Luther, and he started the Protestant Reformation. And part of his qualms that he had with the Catholic Church were he felt that the Catholic Church worshipped saints, so he wanted to stop celebrating any saints' days.
Right.
Um, he had other ones as well, but that's a really long story for another time.
Right.
Oops. Okay. It didn't work, however. Giving gifts on the night of the 5th is still common, especially in Germany and the Netherlands and Eastern Europe, with the saint leaving treats tucked into children's shoes to be found the morning of the 6th. So then the legend of Krampus and of other child eaters like the Belsnickel, Pere Faltard, Necht Ruprecht, and perhaps the most racist rendition, Piet, or Black Peter.
Mm.
All are depicted as wearing a hairy coat and having ash smudged faces, along with a wild black beard. They are also typically accompanied by St. Nicholas and portrayed to be his servants or dark helpers. So, those were other names of different Krampus like creatures. They, however, did not just kidnap children, they ate them.
Yum.
I can you imagine? Like most children, I'm sure that know of Krampus are afraid to get beaten or kidnapped, but
eaten?
eaten, I'm sure it hasn't crossed their minds because that's from an older time. All right. The feast that I described to you at the beginning of the episode was from Salzburg in Bavaria, or and other celebrations that are similar happen in Germany, Austria, and other places that I had mentioned before. However, most of them are more tame than the one I described to you. The one that I described to you had the crowd running wild, where in other places, they are more tame with guardrails, keeping the crowds away from the Krampuses. And it's less about chasing and running around the square. It's more of a parade down the street.
Right.
From 1601 to 1908, they tried to outlaw Krampus runs.
Well, that's no fun.
They they felt that they were unsafe or a distraction from the Christmas season. And also in kind of in tandem with that, they wanted to get rid of Perchten runs, which were January 6th on the Epiphany.
Oh.
And so we'll talk a little bit about that really quick. They were called Perchten runs back in that time, and the monsters were described as wearing black sheepskins and carved masks with long teeth and horns, and sometimes even movable jaws. Accompanying them were drummers, men with their faces covered by cloth, and two cross-dressing fools. The whole procession can be soundtracked by bells and horns. And the greatest thing about it was that if one group encountered another during this night, they would fight.
Oh, wow.
And if anyone died wearing a Perchten costume, they would have to be buried in secret.
Well, that's cryptic and scary.
The reason for this, I found there's two reasons for this. One is that these Perchten runs were illegal. So those burying them if they died were hiding the deed and trying to not get caught.
Right.
The more religious, I guess, reason is that if they were performing these pectin runs, they could not be buried in a Catholic cemetery.
Oh.
So that was the other reason why they were buried in secret. So the difference was that these runs, the pectin runs, happened around the Epiphany, and that was January 6th. All the names for Krampus that I'd mentioned earlier sort of fell away through time, and it wasn't until the late 1800s that the name Krampus came to dominate. So that's the creature that we know.
Right.
That's the Krampus that we know.
Yeah.
Late 1800s, early 1900s. He was actually made more famous by postcards that were sent during Christmas time with his depiction on them. Krampus, there's a movie that came out, I want to say 2015, or was it later
Sometime
than that,
like that.
2019?
Something like that.
It came out called Krampus, and in that movie, he has no eyes
No.
and seems very much like a spirit.
You were right. It's 2015.
2015, okay. Seems more like a spirit than an actual cryptid or creature because it doesn't have eyes, right? It's more like a kind of like black-eyed children or something more demonic.
Something, yeah. It is creepy. I never even thought about that, but it doesn't have eyes.
Yeah. That's what creeped me out most about it. If it was scary and had scary eyes or even like snake eyes, like slit eyes, cat eyes, something like that, it would have been less creepy, I think.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
But those just vacant holes.
Ugh.
That was the most terrifying part.
It was
like,
corpsey.
Yeah. Well, like I watched the movie and I really enjoyed it. I liked the beginning of it, how it just was like this ominous thing that you didn't really see it, like it moved too fast and it was just like scary and it was coming after you and you didn't really like see it. And then once they showed it, I was just like, now this is scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
But before that movie came out, I don't know that I actually knew that much about Krampus. I did a lot of studying for this because I knew it was a German thing. I knew it was like the opposite of Santa Claus.
Yeah. I didn't really know much about Krampus either until the film.
Yeah. Okay. I knew that it had. I had learned through this that it has a feast, and it's the end of this week. Krampus is tied to Saint Nicholas, which drove me up a wall. I was like, wait a minute, what? Like to be tied to this religious figure.
Yeah.
I didn't even know. I feel like I missed something. Anything else about Krampus that you know? I have an ending, but I will read it shortly.
Nothing that you haven't covered other than them taking kids in their, like, kidnapping children, and then the ones they leave behind are like are like a metaphor for what you should and shouldn't do, like naughty and nice, all that kind of thing.
Yeah. Definitely that. I guess after having learned this, because we don't have anything like that here in the States.
No.
Nothing like that. I think we have, because we have German festivals and we have Germanic traditions that have been passed through, we do see some things around the US, but it's nothing like
nothing
over there.
No.
And the tales, they didn't really transfer very far.
No.
It's just a creepy creature that we'd heard about. So, while Krampus to many can feel too sinister for the festive season, a figure who stands in hideous opposition to the jolly Father Christmas, but it seems that the threatening monsters enhance these friendlier legends. They take on the task of punishing children. Krampus allows Santa to be the bright, magical, gift giving figure by being a monster with such a terrifying mythology. The punishments themselves are no longer a petty lack of gifts, but horrifying, the sinister darkness that lures in the shadows of every good fairy tale. In fact, in places without any of the older dark helpers of Santa, we seem to realize that something is missing from the stories. For every good guy, there has to be a villain.
That's true.
I actually really liked learning about Krampus, and now I feel like I really like Krampus, which is
Yeah.
really weird. I don't know why. I guess I liked all the things that are creepy,
Mm-hmm.
but I really liked learning about Krampus.
Right. Well, he's interesting, and I think the yin and yang, like opposition of Santa Claus and all that, makes him um more compelling.
Yeah, I think so too. Um, for his legend to go back as far as um, it does make you wonder if there's more basis to it than just being the opposite.
Yeah.
But as with most cryptids, they start as folklore and just kind of blossom from there. The stories continue. Um, the Black Peter that I referenced earlier, the reason why he's considered the most racist depiction of a Krampus type creature is because um, it started out as men with ash on their faces and then it evolved into blackface.
Oh, yeah.
So that's why. In the research that I had done, it had mentioned that was the one that became the most offensive.
Yeah, definitely. No, I can see that for sure. Well, is that all you have for
That's
Krampus?
all. Yeah, that's all I have for Krampus. I mean, it's hard to.
No, I feel like there's not a lot to really go off of. Like it's all I feel like anything you find on Krampus is gonna lead to the same resources and
Mhm.
like give you the same information. So
Yeah, I feel like I hope I did this legend, some justice here. Like I brought the legend to light for those who
yeah,
were not sure. I wasn't sure until I did this, did this episode. Um, of what the story of Krampus is, but I really like Krampus.
right. No, me too. I get it. Well, again, thank you for listening, and be sure to come back for another podcast or another episode.
We post every week on Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Remember, trust no one, question everything.
And if you want to send us your stories, you can reach us at susfactionpod@outlook.com. If you want to send us your stories to read on the podcast, you can reach us at susfactionpod@outlook.com. And we also have an Instagram.
Yes, our Instagram is at susfactionpod, and I post the teaser every Monday. We have a story up right now that really thanks all of you for listening. Really, we couldn't have done it without you. We're showing that we have become top 10 on a lot of our listeners' playlists, and that's because of you. We're number 1 on 3 of our listeners' playlists, so thank you, thank you, thank you. Um, we have also hit a 2025 instant hit show. They've nominated us an instant hit show. We've performed better than 61% of other new shows this year.
That's exciting.
So thank you again.
Yeah, thank you so much.
We love you all so much.
Definitely. And come back for more next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.